Hello and welcome to the VBA Jetpack course by TrumpExcel. I am Sumit Bansal, and in this video I will show you how to open a Word document using VBA, copy paste the data from Excel into Word and then close the Word document. So here I have Q1 2016 data for these regions. I have their total sales along with the product. And my intent here is to open a Word document simply using VBA and copy paste this table into that Word document. So to do that, let's first open the VB editor. I would press Alt F11. This opens the VB editor. I would right click here and go to insert module. And here we would insert the code. Now, again, when you work with Excel and other applications of Microsoft, then to make these applications talk to each other, you need to link the library, the Word library, so that VBA can open a Word document or can paste stuff into Word document. And to link that library, you need to go to Tools, and here in References, you have all these references, and you can see I have Microsoft Word 16 object library. It is already checked here, but if you do not have it checked, you might have to scroll down, spot it, and then check this. When you check this and you click OK, VBA now has the power to talk to Word as an application and make things happen in Word. So let's start a simple sub. Let's call it sub create Word report. And here the first thing that we need to do is we need to declare the Word app. So we would say Word app as, and here we would say Word.application, because in Excel it does not understand any other application apart from Excel. So here you're declaring that Word app, this would be my application for this code, and it would be a Word type application. And then we need to set the instance of this application. So what we would do is we would say set Word app is equal to new Word.application. This would start a Word application in the backend. This is an instance of Word that has been started by VBA. So if I simply click anywhere and run this code, you can see it takes a few moments, and then you don't see anything in the screen, you don't see anything on the taskbar, but it has started a Word application instance. If I press Ctrl Shift and escape, then you would notice here down that I have a Microsoft Word application. It has been started, but nothing happens as of now. You don't see it anywhere. So to see that Word application in the taskbar, you can use Word app dot visible equal to true. And now if I run this code, you would be able to see the Word application in the taskbar. You may not be able to see it in the video now, but it would be there. If you click on it, you would see that the Word application has started. There is no document in it, but the Word application has started. If you want to run the code and see the Word application as well, you can come here and you can say Word app dot activate, and now if you run this code, then you would see the Word application pop up on the screen. So this is how you can create a Word application and you can activate it. Now let's see another instance of doing the same thing but not using the library. So in this case what happens is, if I come here to Tools and References, and here if I uncheck this and click OK and try and run this part, then it will give me an error. And there is a good chance that if you share this code with someone else, they may not have the exact library that you had. So in this case, let me go down to Microsoft Word, and here you can see it says Microsoft Word 16 object library. It says 16 here, the version number is 16 because I have Office 2016. But if someone has Office 2013, then this would be 15. If someone has Office 2010, then this would be 14. So these versions would be different depending on what type of Office you have installed. And if you send this file to someone who does not have Office 16, then no matter if this is linked or not, if they do not have 16, this will say missing and they will not be able to run this code, and then they'll have to go back manually and check on this. It's alright if you're sending it to someone who's okay and who can do this, but if you're sending it to your manager or your boss and he's not tech savvy, then this may not work for him. So there is another way where you need not link the library. So let me do one thing. Let me copy this code and paste it here, and I will change this name to using create object. And in create object, what we do is, let me delete everything. We do not specify it as the word application, we specify it as an object. So here we would say dim word app as object, and then we would say set word app is equal to create object, and here you'll have to type word dot application, and you have to put it in double quotes because it says class as string. And what this does is it creates an instance of this object, and this object is what? A word application. So if you run this without linking the library, this would still work. So let's see, I'll copy these two lines as it is here, and let's see what happens. So I'll go back here in the reference library, I would uncheck this, I'll click OK, and now when I run this part, it gives me an error because the library is not linked. But if I come here and I run this code, it still works. So even if you do not have the library linked, and if you send it to someone else, this is a sure shot way that this would work. This method is called early binding. Let me type it for you. It's called early binding, which means that you have already specified the library, you have already done the binding. But this is called late binding, which means that you do it when you need it. The big downside of using late binding is that in this case, if you type something like say word app and you put a full stop here, then you would not get the IntelliSense, which practically means that you need to know each and every method and property and object of word application, which is practically impossible. So it's a good idea to use early binding when you're coding, and when you're done you can change these two lines to create objects so that you do not have to have the library linked. So this is a good practice, and in this video we will continue to use early binding, because in that case we will see the IntelliSense, and IntelliSense really make it really easy for us to write the code. Now let's see how to copy paste a table from Excel into a Word document and then close and save that Word document. So to do that, the first thing I need to do is make sure that my library is linked. In this case it is linked to Microsoft Word 16 object library. If it is not, you need to scroll down, check this so that everything here would work. And if I run this code here, you would notice that Word application opens, but there is no document here. So to add the document, I would come here and I would say word app.documents.add, and this would add a document. If I run this, you can see that now I have the document. I have the cursor where I can type and paste anything. Let me close this. Just to make the code neater, what we can do is we can use the with statement. So here I would say with word app, and then I can simply have these lines below it, and then I can have end with here. So this will make it easier for me to write the code and read the code as well. Now once I have the document, let's type something in the document, maybe a heading. So here I would come here and I would say dot selection dot type text, and type text is something that you need to know, a method if you want to type something from VBA into Word. And this is one of the numerous methods available in Word. There are so many things you can do in terms of formatting, in terms of copy pasting, and you need to know these methods. So this is something that becomes a bit cumbersome, and that is why I prefer using VBA only to copy paste data from Excel to Word, because that's a bit easier to do instead of creating the entire Word document using VBA. Now in this case I'll simply type quarterly report, and let's see what happens when I run this code. As soon as I run this, I have quarterly report typed here. So this is good, but this is not a title. I want this center line, maybe I want the font to be changed, the font size, maybe I want it to be bold. So to do that, Let me close this again, and here I would again use a with statement with selection, with dot selection, because now I know I would need a lot of selection statements here, so I would simply use a with statement, and here in the end I can have and with. Now here the first thing I want is I want to apply the font, bold font here, so I would say bold run. Then the next thing here is I want to center align it. So to center align it, I would have to use paragraphs dot alignment, and here I would select dot align paragraph center, and now I would type this. In this case I want the font size to be changed, so I can do that. I can say dot font dot size is equal to 14, and then here let's see what happens when we run this code. So now if I select any code here and I run this, it says quarterly report, but my cursor is here, the bold font is applied, the size is still 14. So what I want is I want to go to the next line. I want this bold run to end, and I want the font size to come back to 11. So to do that, let's keep on doing this. I would come here and I would say dot bold run. This would end the bold font format. Then I would have type paragraph, and type paragraph in Word is equivalent to introducing a line, is equivalent to entering hitting the enter key, so that you'll go to the next line. Let's see what happens when I run this code. And you can see the quarterly report is here at the top. We are on the second line. The bold font is not applied, but the font size is still 14. So to change the font size, you can come here and you can say dot font dot size is equal to 11, and now when I run this, you can see I'm here, font size is 11, bold font is not applied, and everything is fine. If you want, you can center align it using the same property, which is paragraph alignment. So as you can see, there are a lot of lines of code that would go in if you want to format your data using VBA, but again, this is something that you may need to do only once, and then you may have an automated report. Now let's see how we can copy paste data from Excel into Word. So to do that, the first thing I need to do is I need to copy the data from Excel. So let me first go back to the Excel workbook. Here is the data. What I would do is I would select this entire range and copy paste it. So in this case I would say range A1, and I don't know how many lines there could be. It could be dynamic, it may increase or decrease. So what I want to do is I want to go down and I want to go to the right and select this entire current region. So here I would come in, I would say range A1 dot end Excel down dot end Excel to the right, and I would say dot copy. This would copy that table, and then I would come here, and since I'm already within selection, I can simply come here and I can say paste. Now you would see that there are a lot of paste properties here, paste methods here. So you can see there is paste and format, paste append table, nested table. There are a lot of things and you can experiment with these. In this case, I'll simply use the paste method, and let's see what happens when I run this. So when I run this code, you can see that here I have quarterly report, and then below it I have the table, and the table is exactly what is there in Word. Now what I need to do is I need to save this document and I need to exit Word. Now to save this document, I would come here and I would come say outside, and I would say I would have to come to Word app dot active document dot save. Now here you would notice that there is a save option and there is a save as to. In 2007 and versions after 2007, the save as option has been changed to save as to. So if you're using a version which is 2007 or later, make sure you use save as to, because this is the default one. If you're using anything which is 2003 or prior versions, then you would have save as, but it's the same way, it's just that they have changed the name. Now here you need to specify the file name, And let's say I want to copy this onto the desktop. So here what I would do is, let me open the immediate window, and here I'll use the function which is environ, and here I would use user profile within it. And now when I hit enter, you can see it gives me the username of the system. Now I can hard code this, but if you're using this, it makes sense to use the formula instead, so that it'll pick the right username even in different systems. So I would copy this, and here I would use this formula, and then since I want to copy this on the desktop, I would say desktop. And now I would have to specify the file name. So let's say I call this as quarterly report dot docx. I'm using .docx because I'm using 2016, but if you're using a version prior to 2007, then you may want to use doc, or if you're using because you want to share it with someone who does not have 2007 or versions after that, then you can save it as .doc file. And now let's see what happens when I run this code. See what's happening here. At the top it says quarterly report.docs, which means that it has been saved on the desktop. If I go to the desktop here, you can see that I have this quarterly report. Now in this case, what happens is if I close this and I go back to Excel and I run this again, it will again save the file with quarterly report.docx, and it will overwrite it. So let's say in this example, if I change the sales value to 14,000 and I save this, which means that I have a file named quarterly report on my desktop, and I have the first value, sales value, as 14,000. Let me close this and let me run this code. And what this would do is it would replace that file. So if you're using this method, there would be only one version. This file would keep on getting saved again and again. It'll simply override those reports. So if you do not want that, you may want to put an automatic way where it has the day or the time, so that it will create different versions instead of simply just overwriting these files. So to do that, let's see how we can do that here by using the now function. So if I use now, it'll give me this date and time, and I can use that, but the problem is that Excel would not accept colon as one of the allowed characters when you save a file, and you cannot have a colon in the file name. So what I can do is I can change this, and I can use a formula which is format. I can say now, and then I can specify the format here. It's again same as the text formula that you use in Excel worksheets. Here I would say YYYY, which is year, MMDD, and then HHMMSS. And now when I hit enter, it'll give me this format, and this format is allowed in saving a file. This naming convention is allowed. So what I would do is I would simply copy this part and I would put it here, quarterly report, then ampersand this part here, and then I can say ampersand .docs. Let me also do one thing. Since this is not coming in one screen, I can bring it to the next line. And now let's see what happens when I use this. I run this, the file gets saved, and you can see that it says 2016-46, which is today's date and the time. And now if I change the value here to, let's say, 14,000, maybe, yeah, let's say 14,000, and I save it, I have a file on the desktop here which is this file. And now when I come back here again and I run this and I close this, I have two different files. This would have 14,000 and this would have the current value. So this is how you can create and you can save document files when you have to have the version control, when you want to make sure that a file is not saved more than once. Another thing that I want to show you here is that in this case it's a generic name, quarterly report, but what if you want a specific name here? So here it says Q1 2016, and maybe you have hundreds or maybe tens of sheets here and you want to do that for every sheet. Then you may want to have this as one of the naming part in your file. So to do that here, I would simply come here and I would say active sheet dot name. And now when I run this, yeah, now when I run this, okay, it's giving me an error. Oh, it's because I've not used the ampersand. Now when I run this part, you can see that it says Q1 2016, then the naming convention. So you have a way where you are saving it with the tab name, and there would not be a problem of overwriting the files, because every file would be saved differently, because every second counts here. So this is how you can save your Excel, your Word documents. Now the final thing that I want to talk about is how to quit the Word application. So to quit the Word application, there are a couple of ways. What you can do is you can come here and you can say active, you have to start with Word app dot active document dot close. What this would do is it would close the document. It will not close the application, but just the document here. But if you want to quit Word, then what you can do here is you can come here and you can say Word app dot quit. And now when I run this code, let me close the immediate window. When I run this code, it'll make everything happen in the backend and it'll quit Word. But you don't even need to have the Word document visible at all. You can simply remove these lines. So you can either remove it, I'm just commenting it out, and now everything would happen and you would not even come to know. So in this case, let me remove all these files here. So I have a couple of files that are already open, so let me close these files and let me delete all these files from here. Now if I come back to this code and I run this, see what happens. You don't see anything, nothing is visible, but when you go back here in the file, you would notice that this file have been created and it has been saved. So nothing would happen. You can quickly run the code and in the backend everything happens and it gets saved and the Word application is quit. So this is how you can use VBA to open Word document, copy paste your stuff that is in Excel into Word, and then save that Word document and quit Word completely. One last thing that I want to cover in this video is how to convert early binding into late binding. By early binding, I means that here in the reference library, we have it linked with Microsoft Word 16 object library. But if you send it to someone who does not have Office 2016, then this code would not work. That person would have to go and manually link it to the library available with his version of Office. And a good way is to convert it into late binding. So to convert it into late binding, what we'll do is we'll change this to object and we'll change this to create object Word dot application. Now let's see what happens. We go to tools, references, and here I would uncheck this. And now when I try and run this, it gives me an error, a compile error. And this happens because we have converted this to late binding and we have unlinked the Word library, which also means that any variable that is a part of Word library would now not be understood by VBA, which means that this variable WD align paragraph center is something which is specific to Word application. And since we have not linked Word application as one of the reference libraries, this is something that Excel VBA does not understand. So what we need to do is we need to, instead of having this variable, have the code of this variable, and these kinds of variables always have a code such as 1, 2, -1. So to get that code, one of the easiest ways to go back to the, let me come out of the break mode, go back to tools, references. Here I would go back to Microsoft Word 2016. I would okay this, and now I would step through this code. So I'll press F8, and now when I hover my mouse over this, you can see it says WD align paragraph center is equal to 1, which means that this variable has the value 1. So what I can simply do is I can remove this variable and I can put 1 here. Now Excel does not understand the variable when the Word library is not linked, but it still understands this value which is assigned to the variable. So now if I go back here, come out of the break mode, I'll go back to the references here. I would uncheck this, and now if I run this code, this code would run. You can see that nothing happens here, but if you go back to the desktop, here you would have the word report. So this is how you can convert early binding into late binding. All you need to do is change two things. First is declare it as an object, use create object to create an instance of word application, and change all the variables to the numbers that is assigned to those variables. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Thank you and have a nice day.